We live in a time where truths presented by reputable authorities are being shotted down by anonymous outrage. When volume reigns over substance, it's as if facts don't matter. Studies have shown that people are not as discerning as to the quality of information, but what they find more emotionally persuasive. People are hearing what they want to hear and seeing what they want to see. And as self-published material on the internet continues to look more professional, this explosion of user-generated content has forever changed how we should critically engage with information and media. But what we should do and what we actually do are often two different things. Just as we should eat a balanced diet rich in diverse foods in order to be informed citizens, in order to be able to engage in the rich discourse we want everyone to engage in, we need to actively and purposefully consume quality information from a range of sources. A 2016 Pew Research Center survey found that over 60% of people are getting news on social media by happening upon it. This is the equivalent of just driving around to figure out what you're going to have for dinner. You've already made your decision. There is no way that you're going to end up at the supermarket and purchasing salmon and broccoli and rice pilaf. You are not eating healthy tonight. You're getting fast food. You just don't want to admit it yet. And just scrolling along and happening upon headlines is problematic, as even when false information is later corrected, there are still misconceptions that linger. Think about the one study that linked vaccines to autism, which has repeatedly been proven false, and the author discredited. Yet, the misconception still lingers. A page 2 retraction will never undo the damage of a false headline. A 2017 Pew Research Center survey found that 45% of US adults get some news from Facebook. Now, think about who you're connected to on Facebook. Your friends, your family. Many studies have shown that we are continually living in more homogeneous communities despite the fact that we are more diverse as a nation than ever before. According to the New York Times, 60% of voters in the last election were living in what are referred to as landslide counties. These are counties whose margin of victory are greater than 20 percentage points. This trend extends well beyond political affiliation to many different demographic measurables. And these measurables become especially apparent when you're compiling your Facebook friends roster, because you don't treat this like you do a hiring process, where you look to see who would add value, who would add diversity of thought, diversity of opinion, diversity of insight for your team. Without diversity, you and the voices you hear often start to sound eerily alike, because you are eerily alike. Especially as Facebook's algorithm will highlight and promote posts that you like and comment on. It will even prioritize posts that you spend more time looking at, even if you eventually don't like or comment on it. This creates what is referred to as a self-fulfilling prophecy, with people hearing what they want to hear and seeing what they want to see. And it comes together in what's referred to as an echo chamber. These echo chambers exist across all social media platforms where like-minded people continually affirm each other's views. This sounds positive, but it's actually much more destructive as conversation is stifled. These conversations can be represented through something called semantic language analysis. The MIT Media Labs performed such a study of Twitter during the presidential election from August 2015 to Election Day 2016. They found distinct liberal and conservative communities that developed. What was troublesome is that within these communities, they were engaging in the same topics of conversation, but isolated within their own community. These conversations are so distinct that the Wall Street Journal set up a website called Blue Feed, Red Feed. Now, while the name harkens to Dr. Seuss, the reality is not nearly as much fun. This website is a side-by-side comparison of live liberal and conservative feeds on topics ranging from President Trump to healthcare to guns to immigration. The information presented on each feed is drastically different than the other, even though they are on the same exact topic. Fake news is not why this has taken place. This is how fake news takes place. There is an existing division that is being exploited for advertising revenue. More often than not, these sites are being hosted internationally by teens and 20-somethings with the primary purpose of making money. In the last election, the most effective fake news stories were either pro-Trump or anti-Clinton, and they were consumed widely by both sides. They place emphasis on memes and videos, as those are the easiest to process on Facebook. In the 3 months leading up to the election, the top 20 fake news stories garnered over 8.7 million shares, reactions, and comments on Facebook, compared to 7.3 million for the top 20 real news stories. We are in a situation as a society where fake news can outpace real news because we are continually living in more homogenous communities, despite the fact that we are more diverse as a nation than ever before. We are living in these homogenous communities in our daily lives as well as online. This dangerously limits our exposure to differing views as well as multiple sources of information. With this limited exposure, echo chambers are able to foster and incubate misinformation and fake news. People are then able to take this false information and use it to affirm a preconceived worldview. All the while, these sites are able to collect the advertising revenue in what is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So, how do we promote truths over misinformation? First, support libraries. Advocate for school libraries. Invest in public libraries. The role of librarians has changed drastically, from the gatekeepers of an information repository to the guides who help navigate the way by teaching information literacy. At its core, information literacy is about the ability to find information, vet information, engage with information to create new knowledge, and do so in an ethical manner. Most people are familiar with the old model of library instruction, which used to focus primarily on finding information. The information was literally in the building. Finding it was the hard part. But once you found it, it was going to be pretty good. Quality is why it was in that curated collection. Now, there's a universe of information that is growing exponentially. The size of the internet doubles every couple of years. There are 300 hours of video being loaded onto YouTube every minute. That is almost 2 weeks worth of content every single second. This is why information literacy not only focuses on the ability to find information, but to vet and engage with that information in a critical manner. However, there is a fundamental misunderstanding amongst decision makers that the ease of access to information is a reason not to need librarians, despite the mountains of evidence that show the soaring benefits of having a well-resourced and well-staffed school library. As such, during budget cuts, libraries are often the first thing to go. In Chicago, the nation's third largest school district, 75% of students will not have access to a librarian in the 2017-18 school year. This is a drastic decline since 2012, where nearly every Chicago public school library was staffed. In Los Angeles, the nation's second largest school system, budget cuts for the 2017-18 school year left 43 elementary school libraries unstaffed. In New York City, the nation's largest school district, in 2017-18, it is reported that the Department of Education failed to provide librarians at 87% of Harlem schools. This trend needs to be corrected. School libraries are crucial and necessary towards teaching information literacy so that our students can find, evaluate, and use good information in an ethical manner. Second, purposefully read the news. Don't settle for the easy fast food of information by passively consuming headlines. Remember the damaging, lingering effects of misinformation, even when it's later corrected. Read in a way that will make you better. Purposely read the news from multiple sources and make your own critical assessments. Engage with information that you would normally not happen upon within your own homogeneous community. This will add balance to your information diet. Think of it as reading your vegetables. Third, delve into discourse. You know the large majority of your Facebook friends in real life. You can talk to them about what they are posting. Remember, people are not as discerning as to the quality of information, but what they find more emotionally persuasive. People are convinced by emotions. Ask where they're getting their information. Ask about their sources. There will often be a personal story as to why they are drawn to that specific piece of misinformation, because they're making decisions with emotions. Empathy is necessary. But just because you're nice does not mean that you agree. Pope Francis compared fake news to the crafty serpent in Genesis. I feel it's a fitting comparison. Misinformation is deception. It's a trick. And it said the greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing the world he did not exist. Do not allow bad information that privilege. We cannot ignore the situation nor be passive any longer. My charge to you is to actively engage misinformation. Support libraries. Purposely read the news. Delve into discourse. Shine the light of truths and declare, facts do matter. Thank you.